anti-corruption drive, and he's been explaining what they've been tasked to do. They're to gather information and hand it over to the appropriate institutions or agencies, and here he makes reference to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But we told you that we'll be joined by the Majority Leader and Member of Parliament for Efutu, the Honourable Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who's joined us in studio. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of your platform this morning.
And we believe you're doing very well.
Well, by grace. It's tiring, but what can we do? This is what we sign up for.
Well, what's tiring? You're done with elections. You're back in Parliament.
Transition. And you won massively, so it's not like...
Yeah, it's campaign.
It was not a tough fight.
Well, you may think so, but it wasn't. We had to fight for the victory, work hard for it. And after campaigning, you part of transition and parliamentary demands. It's not easy. It's not been easy, but we are on.
Talking about not being easy, I'll let you assess your tenure as a majority leader shortly. But first, because you talk about it being tiring and not being easy, you went into election 2024 as a leader of 138 member majority. If you come back in, when you come back in January, if you're minority leader, you'll be leading a team of less than 100. How does that make you feel?
Well, if you're a politician, you must know that there are good times and there are bad times. What's been the history of Ghanaian politics since '92? You recall that in 1996 elections, our party had only 61 seats in parliament against the NDC's 133. The smaller parties joined us to give us 67 minority caucus. NDC was just short of one seat to get the 2/3.
Yeah.
But within 4 years, things turned around. In the 2000 elections, we were able to gain as many as 43 seats. Bear in mind that in the 2000 elections, MPP won 102 seats. All right, so if you look at the records, within 4 years, you've lost massively. And then you come back after 4 years to win that number of seats. Move to 2008. NDC gained back some seats from us. And then in 2012, we were further reduced. We had about 125 seats. Then 2016, we had 169 MPP. So we gained back over 40. We got 46 seats more. So within 4 years, NDC had celebrated a sweet victory, a parliamentary majority. But within 4 years, we had 46 gains. And then we had 169. Then within 4 years again, 2016 to 2020, with our 169, we came down all the way to 137. Of course, the independent joined us to make us 138, giving us a single seat majority, meaning that we again lost over 37 seats within 4 years. Then come 2024 elections, we've gone further down. I believe that with hard work, collective posture in the chamber, come 2028, we'll turn things around. Our friends in the NDC were not heartbroken when we defeated them in 2016 and when we had over 1 million votes for a presidential candidate.
Almost 1 million.
Almost. For a presidential candidate, and they were dealt with at the parliamentary level. We had overwhelming majority, which was the first in the history of our politics. They didn't give up. They went back home, did their introspection, came back stronger, and I believe that history and our own history in '97 would guide us as we move into 2025 to put together a formidable opposition, a formidable minority to keep the feet of our friends to the fire. I'm very optimistic that we'll get there, and I'm ready to lead that charge. We'll get there. I mean, when you are in office, there are a lot of things that would go against you. You are implementing a policy. People will be disappointed. People will be happy. There may be policies that you may not be able to implement. Power itself, how people manage themselves when there is power, and all. With time, the apathy at the grassroots, people have their own concerns, have a certain expectation that they've helped the party to come into office. They have certain expectations. So from the one that you get elected, you start losing your vote. And if you look at the trend, if you really study the outcome of the elections, first, we had 6 million Ghanaians who decided not to vote at all. If you look at the electoral roll, the register, we have 18 million plus Ghanaians in there.
Yes.
Now, the total voter turnout was around 12 million, not up to 13 million.
Exactly.
So 6 million did not vote. That's a third of Ghanaians who decided they won't vote at all. Then let's deal with those who voted. For those who voted, you realize that for MPP 2020, what we got, and now some 2 million plus of our votes went off, whereas in the NDC presidential candidate, if you compare what he had this time and that of 2020, he only gained some 100,000.
Aren't we simplifying that? Because you look at the NPP, for instance, and you say, 2 million didn't vote, but this number voted. Do you know for certain whether these are NPP members or these were people who may have voted for you because they probably may have liked your policies, but even voted for a different candidate? Because if you look at your parliamentary candidate votes, they had more votes than the presidential candidate. Certainly, we cannot easily conclude that these were MPP voters.
Okay, so let me go with your argument on the fact that they were not MPP voters. But it doesn't also take away the fact that some 2 million people who voted for us in 2020 election did not vote for us. Whereas in the NDC, they only had a net gain of about 100,000. Okay?
Yeah.
So that said, you can now make certain inferences. But we as a party, we are yet to set up a committee to go into the issues. So I believe that when the committee is set up and they come out with their report, we would be able to get a better understanding of the issues. And it is not going to be the first. Our friends in the NDC did it, the Kwesi report, and they studied it and they implemented the recommendations. So I'm sure we would also have an opportunity to deal with it. Now, NDC has overwhelming majority in Parliament. You know, they've promised a lean government. I can foresee a lot of their MPs being redundant.
How?
So, they've promised some 40 to 60 ministerial...
60 ministers.
Well, so 60 ministers. Of the 60, some would have to come from Parliament because of the constitutional custom. So, they are going to have about 35 or maximum 40 MPs who will be ministers and deputy ministers. If you take that out of their over 170 seats, they would have about 140 MPs. That is huge. Who would be redundant in Parliament, and all they would have to come and do in Parliament is to do All right?
Is their job not to come to Parliament?
Now,
first of all, before they become ministers?
These MPs would have demands from their constituents. I'm talking to you in practical terms. I know what I know. And they will be expected to go to their constituencies. The money will not be there because only few would have had ministerial appointment, and that is where their woes will start. We face the same problem. You remember that it got to a point where it was very difficult to get our members into the chamber, where they would tell me that Mr. Speaker was saying, leader, look behind you. Very soon, I would tell the majority leader that look behind, though you have 170 plus, but your MPs will not be there.
Let me get the clarification here. When you say very soon, because you're looking about 40 ministers coming from Parliament, and there'll be demands on them, is it the case that you're suggesting, by virtue of becoming a minister as a member of Parliament, you get additional funds? Because we know the salaries that you're supposed to get.
Yeah.
We know what cabinet ministers get and what non-cabinet ministers get. So where is the money going to come from that they would use to do constituency work?
All right. So, not personal to them, but they would have access to opportunities.
What opportunities are we talking about here?
Well, if you are a minister of state, you are a member of Parliament, and government policies that allow for some social interventions, okay, you have access to them. You would be the primary source, or you would know, and you would be able to lobby directly that these projects or these resources should go to your constituency. It happens.
Because
you would definitely have an advantage over an MP who is not a minister. It's a fact. Let's not pretend about it.
You make reference to money. You would not have the money sometimes. So I
not money to you as a person. Maybe let me clarify. When I use the word money, it is not to your person, but as in resources. Let me just take the word money and away and replace it with resources. Resources for the constituency. Obviously, if you are a minister of energy, if you are a minister for natural resources, minister for local government, you are a member of Parliament, you are in a better position to have resources for your constituents as compared to your colleague who is an MP without any rank in government. It's a fact. I can't pretend about it.
And talking about practicality, I mean, you say let's be practical.
Very much so.
Let's be practical. You would agree also that once you become a minister, the expectation is that you get additional funds, and many of you would agree that part of the problem, part of the procurement problem in this country is the expectation of the constituents, isn't it?
Look, we are our own enemies. We politicians, sometimes when we need a power, we forget ourselves. So you're right. We've created a certain expectation, and the people then expect that you have to deliver. For instance, yesterday night I was teasing Dr. Kesiel Atuba-Forsen, the minority leader, that during the campaign he went to the cocoa growing areas and said that MPP government would have to increase the price of producer price. Okay? So I asked him, Ato, now that you have power, are you going to increase that? Now you say this to the people. Now you have power. You are supposed to increase the price of cocoa, the producer price. Do you have what it takes to absorb the subsidy? You don't. But you've said it. You go around and you make promises. For instance, President Mahama, as a candidate, was promising a lot of social interventions. At the same time, promising that he was going to repeal taxes, nuisance taxes he calls them. Now, how do you introduce Nkukon Kitinkiti policy? Nkukon Kitinkiti, I understand it basically to mean that the government will roll out social intervention programs to help the private sector, the informal sector, so that somebody would have access to do poultry. Somebody will have some access to do his farm. Somebody who wants to go into a confirmed business will do it. But all these things come at a cost to the state. So if you promise these, and then you also promise that you are going to take away taxes, how would you fund the social intervention program? A social intervention program comes at a cost. Again, the private sector, here we are. For the past 3 years, our colleagues have been fighting us. Why do we give tax incentives to the private sector under 1D, 1F? To the extent that yesterday, the day before yesterday, they were even preventing me from tabling the motion for us to consider the 1D, 1F, which would otherwise give opportunity to the private sector to make savings, bring in raw materials at a cheaper cost, invest in their business, expand. This is a major relief to the private sector. They say no, they want to tax them. They should pay taxes on the machinery, on the raw material. So I see some conflicts, some inconsistencies in the NDC. However, I would want to give them a grace period. I want to see how they go about their governance.
What
The
is
first
that
100
grace period
days.
that you want to give?
Oh, for
How
the
long?
first 100 days. The first 100 days is we should give them the opportunity to set up the government. We shouldn't mean a rush. That would be bad faith on my part. That would mean I'm being unreasonable. No, I've been in government before. I know how governance is. So I wouldn't want to rush them. All these things that my respected colleague Ablakwa is saying, you know, they did citizens vetting committee during the revolution. It didn't get anywhere. Let him
But that's
happy.
not a citizen
Before we
vetting.
go
No,
for a
I'm
break.
saying they set it up.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
before we go for a break, quick one. The
No, I'd
taxes-
like to end. Sorry,
Okay,
please.
please go ahead.
We know somebody may have to ask Mr. Ablakwa how that committee's work will be funded. If it is a private person who is funding it, they are talking about corruption. We need to know who is funding it, whose money they are going to use to buy fuel, whose money they are going to use to set up the office, whose money, because going around gathering evidence, I'm aware that they've been calling some journalists. Somebody says that, oh, he's going to be Attorney General, he's calling journalists for information and all that, blah, blah, blah. No problem. But we will need to know the committee that he heads, how would that committee be funded? Is it from the state resources, or is an individual who's going to fund it? If it's an individual, then the issue of corruption that they are going to deal with must also be interrogated. How is that individual going to fund their activities? What is this motivation? Is it a citizen who thinks that, okay, I just want to give you money to do this work? On what basis? Why? So we would also interrogate the issues, but it's early days yet.
But quickly, you talk about, removal of what was termed as nuisance taxes. Those taxes, e-levy, betting tax, were also taxes that your presidential candidate said he was going to scrap. In fact, as far back as January this year, I think February, when he did his policy statement at the UPSA auditorium, Dr. Bawumia talked about scrapping these taxes that Mahama talks about.
Oh, I don't want you to get me wrong. I made an absolute statement to the effect that this is what Mr. Mahama said, and also promised a social intervention program. For me, I am only asking how he can successfully implement these two things. Forget about what Dr. Bawumia said. I'm not criticizing him. If I were criticizing,
Yeah, but since he talked about the same thing, would you, for instance, did you critique it at the time? I mean, I'm sure you may have been part of these processes. Have you always had concerns with some of these things?
You see, NDC criticized our tax regime. And my point is that when you criticize a tax regime, you are, in other words, suggesting that you will not have any social intervention policy to implement. And I'm saying that so far, the social intervention programs that they've promised to roll out will come at a cost. My question is that how would they fund it?
You also promised social intervention program. That's why I ask you.
We have a track record.
That's why I ask you, have you always had these concerns? And have you, for instance, in your party's meetings, raised them, for instance, and said, these things we're promising cannot be done because of the other promises we've made?
No, you see, we have a track record of keeping our promise. Let's put it out. One, what is NDC's track record on social intervention programs? When we were in opposition, we promised free SHS. We came into office, we implemented it. We promised 1D, 1F as an incentive for the private sector. We came into office, we implemented it. We promised a support program, the livelihood support program, that we're going to expand it. We did. The school feeding, we promised that the school feeding program will be rolled out in all schools, because they were in limited number of schools. We promised, do the fact check. We did. If we have a track record of implementing social intervention programs, and again we make further promise that these are the other programs that we are going to roll out. In the Dr. Baumia campaign, what he said was that coming into office, he would roll out a digitalized platform, train our youth, and give them access to technology, so that through technology, they will be able to create opportunities for themselves. Through technology, businesses would take advantage and expand. The world is being moved by technology now.
Okay.
And that, he believes that with that technological drive being rolled out, the state would gain from that, and therefore there will be no need to have the betting tax, the e-levy, and all that. The NDC has not told us the alternative. If you say that you are going to take away the betting tax yourself, you are going to take away the e-levy, tell us what other sources you are going to rely on to generate revenue.
You also talk about the 1 million, digital training that you talk about. In fact, they started talking about it in 2020. They've talked about the CODES, so they've talked about the National Entrepreneurship Apprenticeship Program. But stay with us. When we come back, we need to talk also about your own assessment as a majority leader and the comment about redundant MPs. I'll ask a few questions about that. Is it not are the functions of a member of parliament not to go and enact laws? Why must an MP who is not a minister become redundant? Our guest this morning, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, majority leader and member of parliament for Efutu. We'll be right back. 7 FM, and we've been joined by majority leader and member of parliament for Efutu, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. So we're talking about, you talked about how some members of parliament will be rendered redundant. I just want you to ask a quick question on that. Members of parliament are supposed to, apart from the fact, they're supposed to have oversight responsibility over the executive and enact laws. How are these members who don't become ministers going to be redundant? After all, their primary responsibility will still be served, wouldn't it?
Well, that is the constitutional responsibility. But practically, if you're a member of parliament, you have some other responsibilities, and those responsibilities are rather the ones that determine whether or not you're going to get back to the house. Unfortunately, the law making responsibility will not be factored by your constituents. There are bread and butter issues, and let's not deny that. But like I initially indicated, we brought all these onto ourselves because of how we approach our campaign. A member of parliament will go into a constituency, meet communities and say, oh, I would pay your fees. When you vote for me, I will do this, I will do that. So once you create that expectation and you come into office, you would have to now be chasing for jobs for people. You will have CVs being brought to you to look for jobs. School fees will come, funeral donations, all manner of requests. And apart from that, demand for projects. They will come to you and say the road must be constructed, electrification, and all. So the MC or the DC, who has that primary responsibility to liaise with government to get those things done, would not even be considered because they've not elected a DC. And the way the NDC has won overwhelmingly in parliament, and how I can foresee, I'm not praying for a doomsday for them, but I'm telling them the reality, and they know the way the expectation is. They've charged the people. They went around telling the people that NPP has not done anything for you. Some of the constituencies that we lost, they told them, oh, like a place like Okankwe South, my respected colleague Newman.
Dakwa Newman.
Dakwa was helpless in the dying days of the campaign because she goes to even traditional NDC, MPP areas in the constituency, and she is told that 28 years, then the people were no more looking at the infrastructure. The people were not looking at the all-important free SHS policy that all parents were benefiting. But they were looking at the bread and butter. All because the NDC had created a certain impression that, look, they're supposed to do more. You are hungry. They are corrupt, etc., etc.
Would you agree the NDC ran a better campaign?
No, I won't say so. I won't say so.
Why wouldn't you say so?
Because if you run a campaign of mischief and propaganda to win, it's not a better campaign. It will benefit you today, but tomorrow it will catch up with you. And that's the point I'm arriving at. So, with time, let's give ourselves 6 months, 1 year. These MPs I call the redundant MPs will not be able to go back to their people. And that's where their problems will start. Besides, by a constitutional custom, President Mahama has a term. He can't go beyond 4 years. Already in Parliament on Monday, we saw some few things. In Parliament, we see things with our eyes.
What did you see?
We hear things. Their internal struggle has started.
Internal struggle for what?
For leadership, succession. They've already started their campaign.
As to who becomes
yes, who succeeds Mahama. Yes. I won't mention names. Time will tell. But I'm telling you that all these would be factored into what happens in 2028. So I am very optimistic that Ghanaians will soon see the hypocrisy, the double standard, the mischief, all the things that they are trying to do now. With time, would know who they really are. And I'm not worried at all. All I tell my people is that let's be calm, let's take it easy. Of course, there were areas that there were some irregularities. We are doing auditing of these areas. At the right time, the party would come out with its report. Also, the violence nature with which they snatched some of our seats. They took advantage of Dr. Baumia's concession speech and went all out to unleash violence, which was very unprecedented. I know in elections there are pockets of violence here and there, but this one was very deliberate, well organized. To some extent, MPs, my colleague MPs I respect, were leading the violence, which I found very unfortunate. But they have temporarily succeeded.
Specifically which areas?
Tema Central. Watch the videos, my brother.
And you say an MP led
Of course. Watch it. I don't want to mention the name. Watch the video. If you don't have it,
but that
I will
means
send
you've
you.
indicted all your colleagues.
I'm making a point. Okankwe Central. It was an MP who was leading the charge, holding the return officer to declare. He had completed his process in his constituency and went there to do that. Ablekumanov. The videos are there. Your correspondents were there. Ask them. If you don't have the video, I'll share with you. At our press conference, we shared with them. It's a fact. Let's not be in denial. I am saying.
Is the conduct criminal?
I'm not going to determine the criminality.
He held a returning officer.
I'm not
compelled him to make a declaration.
I'm saying that I'm not to determine the criminality or otherwise.
But do you
I am situating my argument on violence.
Yeah, because I've not seen you report him or anybody to the police.
I am saying that I'm situating my argument on violence. It's not for me to determine the criminality or otherwise. Already the EC officials who were affected by these conducts have lodged official complaint to their head office.
EC, not the police.
I'm saying, discussing what I know.
Okay.
The EC has officially issued a statement putting out these facts the fact that their officers were attacked, the fact that their officers were compelled, cajoled to make declarations, and they have made pronouncements on these to the effect that they are illegal, to the extent that they have given us 9 constituencies where they are going to recollect. And we all know what happened when the recollation was structured, that Ashanti, Bono, Thursday last week, Greater Accra, Friday. Eastern region was supposed to be Thursday. Ashanti and Bono was supposed to be Friday, and Greater Accra Saturday. And all political parties agreed, I repeat, agreed to this arrangement to be undertaken at the police training school at Tesano. First day, when we had first 4 collated, we had 3. Fanti Akonov, Akwitia, and Suhun. We won all of them in a peaceful collation where our colleagues participated. When it got to Honorable Anodon Press own, and they were about finishing, they said their computer laptop had gone off, so they need 2 hours to charge their battery. After that, Mr. Woyome came there, and it was bad. Earlier on, we had Oktukuno. We had a very serene atmosphere, respectful, thing being done there. And then their Deputy General Secretary, I don't like to pronounce people's name wrongly, Mustafa Bandi. He was there. We conducted ourselves peacefully. Everything was normal. He supervised his agent. Then Woyome came to disrupt the entire process, that they won't allow Anodon Press own to be declared. And he said this thing openly, that their foot soldiers are upset with them. So he's begging us. I repeat, he didn't say it to me privately. He said to the hearing of police officers, Honorable Obi Amwa, and my good self, including our regional chairman and some of his own officers, that their foot soldiers were upset with them while we were winning all the seats. So we should hold on Anodon Press own to the next day, Friday, so that if Anodon Press own is also declared, they wouldn't be too mad at them. I said, who told you this? Mr. Woyome, we will not. We will go ahead. Then they all left the room, and then when they came back, they said their laptop was gone off, and they needed 2 hours to charge the battery. We gave them 2 hours, up to 1 a.m. They now said they were tired. Then the police CID boss was there with all police officers, and then the EC regional boss now said he was also tired, that we should give them, they want to take 2 hours sleep up to 3 a.m. We waited at 3 a.m. The man woke up. He said, look, he's still feeling tired. We should start at 6 a.m. We agreed. 6:30 a.m. the next day, they started the collation process. And at 8 o'clock, they came in again with their people that, hey, there's an injunction. Only to later realize that they had filed an application to the court. Then they created an atmosphere of insecurity. Ahafano North, Techiman South, and Ahafano Southwest, their tables had been arranged for the collation. Then they said they had boycotted it. They won't come. Eventually, threatening the police officers there in that hall. And IGP had to call the CID boss that they should stop the collation unless EC write officially to the police again, which I found very strange. And now they claim that we're supposed to go to court. When the EC has not made an official declaration, it is when the official declaration is made that you can say that your reliefs lie in court. I'm saying that in all of these, our friends have unleashed unprecedented violence to mar the election process. Whereas in our case, even before the official declaration, our flag bearer conceded as a result of our own internal collation.
With hindsight, you think he conceded too early?
I won't say that. I think that he had the people of Ghana at heart. He was looking at the peace of the country, and he did the right thing.
You think his concession affected the party's parliamentary candidates?
I can say that because the party has not set in motion a system to investigate all matters. That I will leave it there.
But you did say earlier on that the NDC took advantage of that.
But that's the point I'm making. I'm saying that they took advantage.
So it means
but
that,
because
that affected your parliamentary
If you
candidates.
look at the violence, it all started after. All right?
The concession.
Yes, because, and all the pieces that came, the 9 of them that we are collating their constituencies, together with the earlier ones that we did successfully, all complain. And if you look at Owen, Awin, I can pronounce it well, Awin, they chased 3 of our polling agents from the polling stations and now changed the figures and had their own people signing, and then they with all that they still won by 92 votes. With all that, if you look at Obuasi East also, for instance, they took our PC into a room, placed a gun to his head and said, sign or you die.
Was that what the PC told you?
Yes, and there are videos.
He's reported to the
I'm
police?
saying the video, there are videos. Let me deal with the political issues. The issue of criminality is a different argument. I'm sure he knows what to do. I am here to discuss the political issues. All right? And then they just cancel the result and say, declare me. Look at Ablekuma North. You are Joy FM, a respected media platform. You've seen the videos where there was so much violence that the return officer now had to say that I declare you a winner. No figures. How sad. So regrettable, so unfortunate. Look at Tema Central. My friend Patrick Boaman's place, Okaikwe Central. All the things that happen. I'm saying that these actions have marred the outcome of the elections, but I would want the EC to be firm, and I expect the MDC to act in good faith. Let us cooperate with the process and ensure that the things that are supposed to be done are done and done well. In 2004, in Pro East, a declaration was made, and Dr. Farijan had to reverse the decision because the returning officer had made mistakes in the collation. It was initially declared for MPP, and when the correction was made, the NDC candidate was declared a winner. That was 2004. I don't see why my colleagues are running away from the collation, and they are now rushing to court to say that, oh, they once declared, your reliefs lie in a court action.
You don't trust the court to do the right thing?
No, I've not said so.
Mm-hmm.
I am saying that they are wrong because there hasn't been any such thing as a declaration. The EC, the Electoral Commission itself, has issued a statement and followed it up with a press conference where it has put out all the happenings in these constituencies and accordingly stated that all that happened in these constituencies were illegal, not in accord with law. In accordance with law.
Once they're disputing that, you say
once who is disputing?
The NDC is disputing
Right.
that. Isn't the court the place to resolve that?
Well, when a constitutional body has a mandate to undertake an act, temporarily, until something untoward happens, the court's jurisdiction is temporarily ousted. That constitutional body is supposed to do its work. That notwithstanding, if it means that going to resolve it in court would be the best approach, I am for it.
Okay.
Because obviously the constitutional body has not finished its work. It has stated so publicly that it has not declared the results. So if somebody is rushing to court, perhaps going to court to request for mandamus to compel that body to do its work, but the body has not said it's not ready to do its work, then going to injunct the body from doing its work, you may have to put together a compelling argument. So if the NDC, which said it was not going to use court, but it would follow due process, to achieve its objective at winning, is now saying that, the due process is not only limited to engaging EC, but it wants to go to court. So be it.
Okay.
So be it.
This morning we're joined by Member of Parliament for Efutu and Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin. We're talking about the 2024 elections lessons. We've been analyzing why the NPP lost. But before we move to your assessment of your tenure as Majority Leader, so you've talked about the violence, you've talked about promises, but let's just end it on this note. Beyond these, what do you think led to the NPP's poor performance in election 2024?
Generally put, when a party wins, and
before I continue, let me say that we have the program extended up to 10:15, so we have 15 minutes more. Please go ahead.
Generally put, when a party wins power and governs for 4 years or 8 years, there is a general apathy, even within the party. Why? Because somebody is happy, somebody is not happy. So I would say that the general apathy was a factor. However, there will be some specifics that I believe that the party machinery will be able to get if the committee is set in place. In 2020, a committee was set in place by the party to go into the 2020 elections. And I believe that the 2024 elections as well, the party would get a committee to investigate and bring a report. That report will give us a holistic view as to what really went wrong. And I believe that that would be a guiding point for us to prepare ourselves, even as we rebrand, regroup, re-strategize, and get ready for the next elections. I have no doubt on my mind at all that with all these things in place, 2024 would get a very positive outcome in the elections. I'm very, very optimistic about that.
Okay, so let's...
I say
yes.
2028.
2028, sorry about that.
Yes.
2028, Thank you very much. Thank you. 2028, thank you.
So let's look at your tenure. Now, you became majority leader of your side in a parliament that had 138 majority members and 137 minority members. What would be your assessment of your tenure?
Well, first of all, we had a very difficult 4-year period. Don't forget I was a deputy.
Yeah.
I was part of the system. The NDC minority were not on their own.
What do you mean by that?
Were not on their own in the sense that anytime we had to discuss issues with them, they will refer you to their political committee. And that made life difficult. They put up a posture that although the MPs had their leadership, but a central party, a party committee would have to take decisions. And a lot of the things that we could have done by consensus, sometimes last minute, they will tell you that we are sorry, the party central political committee says no, and that made governance difficult. And I would say that the NDC minority, largely they don't help the governance of the country.
Tell us a case in point where you agreed on something only for them to come back and say the central committee says no.
Several of them.
Give me like say one or two.
The 1D, 1F. The judges, the Supreme Court nominees. Mm-hmm. We had agreed to do it. They came for vetting. After the vetting, we were supposed to table the motion. And then suddenly they said the political committee says no. So they will do, we should go by majority decision. The $250 million World Bank support for the financial sector. Again, they went to the finance committee meeting by consensus on the floor. They again said the political committee had advised them that they shouldn't be part of it, so the report had to be changed to majority decision. Several of them. This 1D, 1F, it got to a point, they even said, okay, there are some companies that we should select. The small ones, they would do. Later change their mind. Some of the requests that came, that the raw material component should be taken away. And that was the request from their political committee. So they want the raw material component taken out. And when we took away the raw material component, almost about 400 million of the requests, okay, was taken off. And we reduced the actual incentive to be given to these industries. They now change their position again and say, look, the political committee says no to all 1D, 1F. And their reason was that if these companies get the tax incentive, they were likely to help us. So
Is that what they told you?
Yes, they said that publicly. It's not that telling me privately. They said that into Hansard. You watch, ask your correspondent. In their argument, they said that if they approve them, these people are going to give monies to us. They said that on the floor. Okay, they've made life very difficult. All because their political committee. Look at this issue of minority majority. Okay? Before we resumed, they said their political committee had advised them that because some members on our side were going independent and all that, they should take the matter up. We tried to negotiate with them that, look, these things are not necessary. I was on my knees. Sometimes people see the other side of me. When they play hardball and I play hardball, then people say, Markin plays it too hard. I only play hardball when I have to play hardball. They know the extent to which I negotiate. Sometimes 2 a.m. I'll be leaving a colleague's home. 3 a.m. I'll be going round, and then they will refer you to their seniors who are not in parliament. You have to reach out to them, call them,
You reached out
meet
to
them.
all of them?
And then sometimes, last minute, they will say no. When they say no, and it's a political decision, I'm a politician. I understand. So I don't want to fight. When you are negotiating with your opponent, and you say, Kwamena, as for this one, it's our party decision. And that is what happened in the minority majority tango.
But it didn't matter where you sit, for instance.
Oh, that's please.
Hold on.
Don't trivial. With respect,
I'm not trivializing it. I'm not trivializing
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
But you cited reasons.
No, you hold on. I'm not trivializing it.
spiritually good enough.
I'm just
I
saying
will
that.
come back to it. I say things that I know.
Yes.
I want to say. So don't try any sarcasm.
Yeah, you
Raymond,
cited.
Raymond, don't start any sarcasm with respect. Don't start any sarcasm with respect. Raymond, we've started a good thing. Please, we've started a good. Please, Raymond, don't mar the latter part of this interview. Stop where you are going to. We are discussing serious matters here. Please, Raymond. Let's maintain the mutual respect we've had for each other, and get me to come here again. Don't start that thing with me. Raymond, don't start it with me. With respect. We've had a serious discussion. Let's get there. Please don't misquote me. Don't try to throw in anything. Don't start it. Just Winston, let me hear you. Please. You know I won't take that. With respect. You are my Masonic brother. I respect you. Please go by that rule.
Okay. So
Winston, let me hear you.
Yes, the question
If
was.
you want to ask,
yes.
No, let's go. He was asking a question. Please, my respected brother. Winston, ask your question. We are here on mutual respect. Okay. Please.
So my point is that when you had requested a recall of Parliament.
Yes, please.
And you had business to do.
Yes, please.
Which could lead to a vote.
Yes, please.
If you had all your members present, did it necessarily matter where you sat, or the business mattered the most?
All right. Thank you very much. So, by our practice and convention, we have our side. We sit to the right of Mr. Speaker. Before we get into the chamber, we normally do pre-sitting. And the pre-sitting allows all of us as political actors to discuss issues. Here we had gone into pre-sitting. Harun Idrisu had brought a petition. The petition was to ask Mr. Speaker to make certain declarations. By Order 99, I brought the rules book here. By Order 99, the Speaker was supposed to admit first the motion. After admitting the motion, he will give a date for Haruna to move his motion. We argue it. After that, Mr. Speaker is required to refer the matter to a committee to look into it. And then thereafter, we table it for further deliberation. Then out of the blue, because they are taking a political decision, they realize that if they are to go by the Haruna route, they weren't going to achieve what they wanted to achieve. Therefore, they now came under a different rule, 93. Then Atu decided to spring that surprise on us, which we argued. Now, Mr. Speaker had assured me, and I've said this before and I'll repeat it. Mr. Speaker had assured me that in view of the court action and the fact that we needed to ensure the peace of the House, he wasn't going to make a pronouncement on their requests. Then I realized that no, whilst we were waiting for the process to be served on Parliament, say on a Monday, the Speaker had also indicated that he will give a ruling on Thursday. That's when I got alarmed. That's when I got alarmed. And I had to take certain steps to protect the interests of my caucus, because everything falls on me. Now, when we were done and the court had made a pronouncement, again, the clerk to Parliament said that he had not authorized the NDC to move from their side to our side. And Mr. Speaker himself told me that he never declared them as the majority. In fact, Mr. Speaker continuously referred to me as the majority leader, and he asked me that I should check the Hansard whether he referred to me as minority leader. So it became a political matter, where the clerk is saying that I did not instruct them to take your seat. Go and check, your name tags are there. We get into the chamber, and at the time, the atmosphere was charged. I can't tell you certain things that were going to happen, that were happening at the time. The right thing for me was to hold back. That if you guys are going to sit on my seat, I will hold back. The question is that why is it that suddenly they've gone back to their seats? Why have they gone back to their seats? These were people who were claiming that they were the majority. Why is it that after the election? Because this one, we didn't have any discussion. They didn't say anything. I didn't need to go and meet Mr. Speaker. When we went on Monday 16th, I was just told that they've gone to sit at their place. That should tell you the political mischief that they were creating at the time.
My question was,
I'm coming back to it.
You needed to have government business.
I'm coming back to it.
Why didn't you just let it go?
I'm coming back to it. I'm coming back to it. You see?
We have only 2 minutes left, actually.
Well, Ferry would answer you. Can you say that if Speaker goes to the chamber and somebody has taken his seat, because he wants to still preside, he can get a chair and sit somewhere and then still preside? No. No. It is not done. We come here, this is my seat you've given me. I can't come and force you and say that get out of your seat and stand somewhere and still host the program. Sometimes let's allow due process to work. And that is democracy. If we do things anyhow, things will get out of hand and there will be lawlessness. And I didn't want any lawlessness.
But was it more important than the business that you had put before the House? The list of laws you wanted passed, all the other things that many in this republic, the people you represent, would have prioritized?
Ray,
yeah,
that approach you are adopting is very trivial. It's not a matter of whether it was important to do this or that. Where is the sitting arrangement? Have you had a cause to condemn their actions?
That's not the question.
No, I'm asking you.
No, you can't trivialize it. The point I'm asking you is, people put you in Parliament to do a specific job.
To sit
You
where?
lead, respectfully, you lead a caucus, which is conducting government business. You said because of your sitting position, that government business could not continue. Do you have any remorse at all about it?
Excuse me, with the greatest respect to you, Ray, if you understand parliamentary practice, I beg to say that you won't ask this question. The reason why I'm saying this is because in Parliament, we follow due process. There's a way parliamentary business is conducted. There's a way Parliament does its work. You don't rule through lawlessness. What my friends did was lawless. And what I did was to ensure due process was followed.
Okay, which means our time is up. But
Thank you very much.
Honorable Afenyo-Markin, we need to do this again.
No, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to always come.
Tomorrow.
I'll be happy to come here tomorrow. Once we agree to act in an atmosphere of mutual respect, I will be here.
Let's meet tomorrow.
I'm always here with you.
Thank you very much, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Member of Parliament for Futu and Majority Leader.